Tuesday. Oh, and Thursday. I play Tuesday and Thursday. I'm just getting back in.
Yeah.
Now I'm talking about because. There's a certain time of year.
Yes.
So they stop and we just like, all right, you're 65. This one is 90. Reno, they don't want another. That's a tournament. Reno is at the end. First one. But that just got me back in.
How delayed is this? Because I'm up right now.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Means you thought it today. Okay, so we'll let them know.
Okay, this is like 2 minutes.
So,
Yes.
my birthday is
Yes.
May 15.
Yeah.
We both the same age until June 5th.
That's pretty cool. Pretty cool.
So every year when my birthday would come, she goes, "Okay, you can play with us." So I would play literally from May 15th to June 6th.
And that'll be
When
like,
June 6th came, she would not, her and her friends would not play with us.
I just want.
wow. I didn't do that.
the second.
Okay.
It was funny.
Well, hold on. Let me get my.
No, we can't.
What about doing that? We gotta read.
She wasn't gonna be in it.
About here, that here.
Oh, I don't think it'd
She's
be.
doing it in the hair texture, I'm doing the skin color.
Okay.
I don't know. Why do you like this? Real quick.
And so I don't wanna be rude, so I won't be leaving right after, so I love y'all.
Is that streaks of
I'm
light?
gonna give it a hug.
Yeah, that's because
Okay.
we can't.
Okay, I got it.
No,
Yeah.
15.
Oh.
Thank you. Who?
Lavia?
She's gonna be able to come.
When is
It's better on this one, if you, when you
Okay,
upload it
good.
later, yeah, yeah.
Somebody else's birthday, right?
Layla's,
Tell me.
My niece, your birthday niece.
Layla's on the 31st.
Ladies on the 31st.
Layla should have come.
Turned
So me and
16.
she on their birthday.
16.
cake.
Yes,
It's been so
I'm
much.
so glad, 'cause I didn't get a cake this year.
You didn't?
I get a cake every year. I think that's a little regular.
But I got it.
Everybody, you know, they took their names.
Got it.
I got my pancakes from Denny's
Hey,
too.
Numbers 12.
We're stacking up.
Numbers the 12th chapter.
Stop.
Yeah.
Yeah. Numbers
What if I don't
12th
say
chapter.
Numbers.
Numbers 12.
Pardon?
Yes. And then we have verse, it's 16 verses, so, but this story is very important to set up this segment.
Say that again.
Number. All right, welcome back. We are now on this segment. We're gonna start with text on kind of hits on colorism, even though some of the scholars try to wrestle with this text. Numbers 12, you all will be familiar with the story. I'm gonna read. Okay, I'm gonna read, we're gonna go this way. Numbers 12, and we're just gonna go right on through the story. All right, I'm gonna start here and we go to my left and come back. And Miriam and Aaron spake against Moses because of the Ethiopian woman whom he had married, for he had married an Ethiopian woman.
And they said, hath the Lord indeed spoken only by Moses? Hath he not all spoken also by us? And the Lord heard it.
Now the man Moses was very meek above all the men which were upon the face of the Lord. the earth.
And the Lord spake suddenly unto Moses, and unto Aaron, and unto Miriam, come out, ye three, unto the tabernacle of the congregation. And they three came out.
And the Lord came down in the pillar of the cloud and stood in the door of the tabernacle and called Aaron and Miriam, and they both came forth.
He said, hear now my words. If there be a prophet among you, I, the Lord, will make myself known to him in a vision. I will speak with him in a dream.
My servant Moses is not so, who is faithful in all mine house.
With him will I speak mouth to mouth, even apparently, and not in dark speeches. And the similitude of the Lord shall be upheld. Wherefore then were ye not afraid to speak against my servant Moses.
And the anger of the Lord was kindled against them, and he departed.
And the cloud depart from off the tabernacle, and behold, Miriam became leprous, white as snow, and Aaron looked upon Miriam, and behold, she was leprous.
And Aaron said unto Moses, Alas, my Lord, I beseech thee, lay not the sin upon us, wherein we have done foolishly, and wherein we have sinned.
Let her not be as one dead, of whom the flesh is half consumed when he cometh out of his mother's womb.
Moses cried to the Lord, saying, Heal her, God, I beg you.
And the Lord said unto Moses, if her father had but spit in her face, should she not be ashamed 7 days? Let her be shut out from the camp 7 days, and after that, let her be received again.
And Miriam was shut out from the camp 7 days, and the people journeyed not till Miriam was brought in again.
And afterward, the people removed from Hazeroth and pitched in the wilderness of Paran.
Amen. So y'all got that gist of the story, right? So we got Moses, some scholars try to say he was really like married a second woman. He had a Midianite or Egyptian and then a Cushite, or they were all trying to go back and forth. But here we have Zipporah that they really mad about. So you got, first of all, we got two things. We got a church setting, right? We got Israelites going on their way to the promised land, and we got a family unit. All right. All this is in the church. And Miriam and Aaron, like, well, we don't like her skin tone. Therefore, now this is me, this is the anti-pastoral part. Moses don't have good judgment. Is this the only person God speaks to? Because after all, look who's on his arm. And our little nieces and nephews, they ain't gonna come out right. All right, I thought I better get to y'all's family reunion right quick. All right, so I'm reading from this thing, this podcast called Very, Very Well Mind. And so they want to say that slavery began to get these differences in skin tones. But of course, we just read from the Bible, they've been at it for a long time. All right, so there's an understanding that the lighter you are, the closer to European features you become, and therefore you're more favored or more blessed in the world. All right, that's just kind of out there that sets the tone. All right. They also studied that lighter skinned aristocratic Blacks engage in the opportunity of hoarding practices to keep darker skinned poor Blacks from social networks. In other words, the darker you are, the more poor you are, the more I can actually shun you and hide you and keep you from our setting. All right. Then there was the 1 drop rule. Everybody heard about the 1 drop rule, right? So if you got 1 drop that's anywhere close to mixed race, then you was just now you could be lightest, but you was one of them. All right. So then there's I wonder if you heard about this, the Blue Vein Societies. Anybody heard about the Blue Vein? All right. You'll understand it when you hear it. It's the lighter skin because you can see their veins bigger. All right. So just keep that in mind. Black community, Black people showed a preference for lighter skinned Black people. And so if you showed that on your skin, you were favorable. All right. Then you heard about this used to happen at Oakwood. My dad never told me, it didn't with my dad. Have you heard of the brown paper
Yes.
bag?
Yeah.
All right, so that's when it started coming up. You put your skin against that brown paper bag, but it started with whether or not light-skinned people wanted you in their clubs.
Mhm.
So therefore, you'd have to pass this test, and if you didn't, out, the rest of y'all come in. All right. Right. So this thing's been at it a while. It's just every generation's a little different. So I am curious about when we get here, and I'm gonna start with you, and then we can go around the room. So Yamada, we were in Jamaica. We had these VBS kids, like 300 kids came to VBS. They were just coming from walking all over the place. And you gave me a station. I was supposed to do the drama acting out the Bible's theme of the day. So as I was looking around, the people said, the girls whose hair, gonna get on that a little bit, whose hair wasn't, it wasn't European. So when you come out to join us, one of the girls say to you, I want to be white like you. What was that conversation?
Well, first of all, it took me off guard, because I ain't never been called white until I went to Jamaica. But when you go to Jamaica, that would make sense, right? Because it's not diverse in skin tone as the US, right? And so and it happened to be a dark-skinned young lady. And so at that point, the perspective I had to quickly, right, like recapacitate or whatever, that I was just, she called me white. And then I said to her, perspective is everything. I told her, if you go to where I live in the US, they don't call me white. Like, I'm not white. I said, but I understand your perspective of where you're coming from. Immediately, though, when understanding, and we'll get into all of this, understanding that my fair skinness comes with a certain privilege or a certain status, right? It was important for me to validate her skin color and her hair texture, because she's already looking at me as the level of what pretty is, or whatever privileges come with that, right? Which we know is in the media, is why they have the bleaching creams, right? We know all of that, right? So I immediately turned around and said, but you're beautiful. You are beautiful the way you are. I was like, why would you want to be me? I said, then we would miss the beautiful you that you are. And then she, started talking about over there in Jamaica, they call people of East Indian descent coolie. Now, it's a derogatory term for East Indian, but they just assume, because there is that East Indian mixture in Jamaica, that was the mixture that I had. And she was like, but I like your coolie hair. And I just kept trying to reiterate, and whether, it impacted her or not, I just thought it was important that she needed to get validation from me. The fact that was not her color, and I did not have her texture, whether she received that or not, I pray that she did, right? Because obviously that comes from, being marginalized because of your skin tone and because of your hair texture. But yeah. That was-
So have you ever been compared or compared yourself to, wish you were this or that, and where'd you grow up at, and what was that like? Just kind of jump in.
Well, it's funny. My father's side is Jamaican. And while it's been so long since I met or knew anybody's family, from what my mother says, there's a mixture. It's part of the indigenous race, which is the Arawak Indian, and there's some white in there. But my mother's very dark skinned. And so when her and my father were courting, his parents didn't like her because she was, she was dark. And so for me, when I was growing up, and I as younger, I was even lighter than I am now. But if I went to private school, it was like I was caught between two worlds. Now, and back in the neighborhoods, and sometimes they would call me white boy. But if I'm in a private school and I'm like the only black, then there ain't no white boy. You know what I'm saying? I'm just I'm called the same names as those who are darker skinned to me. So there was a point that I was growing up to where I did enjoy the privileges sometimes of being light skinned, but then when I was in the other world, it was isolation. It was in some sort teasing. And then sometimes they looked at me as exotic. Oh, well, phrases like, she's very intelligent. They didn't say the rest, but you can gather he's very intelligent for a black kid. And he must not be too bad, because he's a light-skinned black kid, So you get all of those anyway, and so it was kind of growing up, it was just kind of like, me trying to find my own identity and struggling to prove myself in both worlds.
Did the girls like you because you were white boy, or did they like you because you was the blackest thing on campus?
Growing up, I really didn't get too many girls because, in the 70s, the Afro was the thing, what I'm saying, it was getting blown out, but my grandmother used to shave my head. So, and she'd send me in school with suspenders, so I would get church boy, because I didn't have no Afro, I was the most popular. So I had to really prove my popularity by, cracking or what you call roasting. So, that's how I made my thing.
I think people in their first impression of you, I think they go by, oh, look at that black girl, look at the girl with the curly hair, look at the tall girl, or something like that, like them not knowing your name. You might take it as like offensive or something. And it's like for me and a lot of, actually, most of my classes, I'm the only black kid in there. And it was like I didn't care at one point, but then I start, like getting more offended by it, but at the same time, like I can't do anything about it because I'm not the principal of the school. I'm not the student's parent who judges me from to the school, so I can't fix it. But at the same time, it's like being African American student in a class with Latino kids and stuff like that. It's kind of hard because then, like, I barely talk to some of them, so they just inform me as, oh, the black girl, or the girl with the curly hair or the braids or something. So. Just kind of hard sometimes.
Anybody else comparing? Have you ever gotten to the point you looked in the mirror and you wish you looked through it because of the environment?
I
Yes.
think for me, not being the lightest and not being the darkest, it confused me because I would experience colorism and then I would also feel favored. And I think that also my hair texture has a lot to do with it because when I would flat iron it, like depending on my hairstyle, I would get treated differently. When I had braids in, I was ratchet. I was just that black girl, stereotypical black girl. When I had straight hair, that's when people want to talk to me. That's when I look less threatening. I look less ethnic. So experiencing colorism and then also watching colorism happen in front of me where I am favored, and because I experienced colorism, I know what it looks like when it's happening to other people. It was so strange growing up because I didn't know whether to feel privileged or if I was a part of the marginalized group.
That's interesting what you said that. That's a really rough place to be because you're like right in the middle, right? So you don't know how to show up in certain places. For me, it wasn't compared. Well, actually, I was telling a girl over here about, I don't know if I was telling you this earlier. I got triggered the other day by this guy on social media. He was saying, oh, just standing next to a black, dark-skinned girl, I don't know. It's just, I'm so uncomfortable. He was horrible. It just, he was like, because the pretty girls are the ones, the typical girls that I would stand next to would be light complected, long, pretty hair, blah, blah, blah. And it triggered me because my whole life, it was horrible for me, but not from people on the outside. The family.
Come on.
My family was horrible to me. My first cousins, they were all light skinned with long hair, and I was the darkest in my family. And they used to say, "We don't want to." They wouldn't even play with me. It was horrible. And they were like, "You don't have to put no Ajax. You need to scrub your knees because my knees was dark and my elbow. You need to scrub your knees with Ajax. You need to put some bleach on." It was horrible. And so when you find that from the inside, it's harder on the outside, even though people didn't verbally say it, but it gave me a sense of not being valued. And so, and then I ended up being a person that was very negative. So I would find fault in you, like for you, I would look at you and I'm just trying to pick something that was pretty, because I felt so unpretty. And so when I was coming up, because I was a dancer and stuff, I always had a nice body. So that would be my showcase. I mean, I would literally walk around with stuff on, because I needed some type of validation, because my skin definitely wasn't it. My hair wasn't it because it was kinky, but I knew I had a nice body. So I would show it off. And I was tiny then, tinier, right? And so it just was horrible growing up because it was inside your home. And then, or when they talk about people or girls, they would go, "Oh, she's so pretty." But before they could say why they would instantly say, because she's light with pretty hair and pretty. So it already cut anybody that was my shade, And then so when I was coming up, people said, they always say, you cute to be dark. So I just didn't be cute. So that made me feel like, okay, I gotta always dress sharp. I gotta always be on point. Because I'm not doing it here, everything else. So that's why I love fashion. I had to find something that would draw attention to me. And it's unfortunate because if you think about it, it still hasn't changed. Because if that young man who was on the Instagram last week said all that, and he wasn't, I'm gonna say he was in his 20s. But the fact that he can say that verbally, so the whole world to see, and if you have other young ladies like me that already, and I am in my late, I'm almost 60, and I still don't feel comfortable. I don't even like to see myself, not even like FaceTime. When I FaceTime, I'm like this. I make sure that I'm not, that's not cool. So I love this topic because that insecurity, even at my age, is still present. I still got to show up in some kind of way where, so people always think, she thinks, Robin is she got so much confidence. No. When I step in the room, I'm very uncomfortable. But I know from head to toe, I'm gonna be sharp, so they don't talk about that. They're gonna talk about me, they're gonna be talking about that. So that gave me an obsession with trying to look good all the time to cover up this. And so I'm hoping whoever's watching this, especially a little girl, if this still carrying on to me now, and I shouldn't even give it on her, right? But I still care. It's still a problem. So when he said that, it triggered me so bad that I was like stressed because it just brought all that back. Like, oh my God, why would you say that? Some things just don't say. Right. So anyway,
Something happened last night. One of the videos I sent you all, it was a dark, well melanated woman, and she was saying, "I need to balance, or I need to set y'all straight on everybody that's celebrating the Black shows of the 90s. So, so glad to have Black people on, et cetera. So she went particularly to Martin. And she was saying how Martin was, it just opened my eyes. Martin was actually capping on the dark-skinned woman, while I forgot Gina on the show, that she never was talked about like an animal, and every joke on an animal was on her. And she was saying that me with dark skin watching that, and she was like, but wait a minute, there's no other joke to go around. So she said when she looked back, she hated that time period because it never balanced anything out. That was the thing. After all these years, I went back and I said, that's what I'm saying. I'm like, man, she got a point. How many people got affected? She said that every time they changed a black actor, actress, they went to the lighter. So if you think of, what's
Like
Will Smith was on?
Yeah, and Fresh Prince.
Fresh Prince, that when they, Aunt Viv changed from this to this one. So she said all these images, and I never thought that television had that kind of effect, but it does. It does.
One thing
Go
that
ahead.
I wanted to mention, speaking on the question of how as a child we grew up experiencing this. Fortunately enough, my household was so loving that I didn't experience it inside of the house home. But it was very easy for me to internalize what I saw out in the world or lack thereof. So I really appreciate you mentioning the marginalization of representation for darker complected people so that young Black girls like ourselves can see the beauty of older Black women and know that it is achievable. It is possible. We're born with it. It's bred within us. But when all you see is the opposite end of the spectrum being portrayed and uplifted as the beauty standard, it's easy to internalize. Like you said, no one has to point at me and say you're ugly for a darker skinned person, but I can look at a billboard that portrays lighter skinned people as beautiful, thin, pretty, the textured hair whatsoever, and then internalize that I'm an ugly, darker skinned person. So internalization of colorism is also a very important aspect that I think.
So here's a risky thing. Did it get easier when you went to church? Cause remember, this story is church folk in the desert. And it's Aaron is he made priest, so he's about to become a priest. Isn't that right, Aaron? So, and Miriam was might as well have been a praise leader, praise worship team leader, because she got the tambourine on the other side of the Red Sea. But this is all after that, and he still can't break this. Can't break this. Inside of church, what are those dynamics? 'Cause I like what you said about nobody has to walk up to you and say stuff, but it can come all the way down to, and I saw this, that's why I can bring it up, that the lighter skinned person gets the solo. I just saw this, man. And then, if you got a choice between the darker skinned one that can play the piano or the light skinned one, the light skinned one got the deal. I got called on this as a youth pastor.
Right.
One time on two pianists, and the other one went on to be really, really, really big. The other one, I mean, he's dead, but this happened to my name Michael Jackson, but anyway, but the dynamic that you're not thinking about, that you could be, it's the images or the messages that come. Say, choose this one first. And you have to reassess and come back and try to make it fair. So that's why I say, I don't know, it's harder to think in church because people I don't know that they just come up and talk and say that kind of stuff.
But
Like the world got no filter.
But sometimes they don't have to,
Yeah,
kind of
that's
like
what I'm
what
saying.
Maisha said, sometimes they don't have to talk and say it. You just, their actions pick it up. So I'll give my perspective in terms of growing up in a Latino church. Okay, so Latinos, very colorist people. And so when you go to a Latino church, unless you are in New York, right, where you have a lot more Dominicans and Puerto Ricans and Cubans, but like growing up in Texas or growing up in the South, you go to a Latino church and most of them are going to be fair-skinned Latinos or white Latinos. So to see Black Latinos or Latinos of African descent in the church, when you feel that, okay, these are, it's funny because a lot of times pastor would be like, he'll see somebody, a Latino, he'd be like, there go your people. and I have to sit there and I remember telling him, like, I wrestled with that. Because even growing in the Latino church, I didn't necessarily feel embraced, right? Because though I'm fair skinned, my mother is dark skinned. And every time we go to church or, new people, and they hear my mother speaking Spanish, they'd be like, wow, how did you learn to speak Spanish so well? Because the diaspora, like, a lot of them were dumped off in Brazil, and, like, a lot of people there, right? And so I felt like my mother more so like experienced that a lot where, we're growing up there, this is our culture, but I never felt like I was embraced by the culture because of the fact that we were of African descent. And even now, and so with that comes that thing where now you try to fit in, right? So now because you are now in a culture of people that speak the same language, but now you're trying to fit in. So then comes, I would start straightening my hair because and we'll get to that part later, but the straightening of the hair so that you can fit in more with the culture, right? Don't wear stuff that's too colorful, right? Because that's just like you're loud, like that's too much, like we got to tone it down, like those types of things. Even like hairstyles, like I sometimes I'd be like, well, Mom, why you always make my hair with two pigtails? Like, like let's get a little more, but no, that would make me look more Black. And so we got to try to fit in. And that's something that my mother really struggled with, because growing up, even though she's from Honduras, in Honduras, she would get bullied because of her skin color, right? And so now her thought process is, well, she married my father, who is Puerto Rican, but he's white. And so in Latin America, there was this thing about, well, instead of the one drop rule, or what have you, it was about, well, the way we're gonna fix this Blackness is that we're going to mix and make a lighter race and a lighter race and a lighter race until there's no more Black, right? And so I grew up in my family, this talk about, we gotta better the race. We gotta better the race. And it would come from my grandfather, who spoke the African dialect, being Garifuna, but he instilled that into my mother and the rest of them, like, we've gotta better the race, even to the point where I was telling Pastor that out of everyone I can think of in my family, from my grandmother to my siblings to my cousins, I was telling, there's only 2 of us that married Black people. Everybody else married somebody lighter than them. And so now the offspring is lighter. And this is acceptable in the Latino community. This is acceptable. This is the thing to do. And so at church, I never felt like I really belonged, even though we spoke the same language. They didn't say anything. But even when it came to dating, is what I was telling them, if it was a white Latino guy and, he's interested, but then it would only go to a certain, extent. I remember my mom finally, because she's seeing me kind of like, well, what's going on, right? And she finally had to tell me it's because of me. Because the parents or they are thinking, well, what will the children look like? If she has a dark mother, it's very possible that the offspring is going to look that way. And that's in the church.
I love that you brought up Latinos, because colorism doesn't just extend to Black people. It's Asians, South Asians also talk about colorism. And I think also growing up as an Afro-Latino, my grandmother is from Honduras, born and raised, speaks the language, that's her first language. And so I felt like I was always trying to convince people that I was Afro-Latina. And whereas they would never ever deny like a white Latino, or someone that was a little bit darker, like you can tell that they weren't white, but they were obviously other. And it didn't help that I don't speak the language also, but it came to a point where I was just like, okay, you either believe me or you don't. But it was so strange. I wasn't accepted just because I'm darker. Even though like I knew the culture, I know the food, I have like my family. But like people really don't know about the African diaspora. And also it's not shown in the media that Black people can speak Spanish,
Right.
you know?
About, it was this book that we read in our humanities class. Do you guys know Trevor Noah? Trevor Noah, Born of Crime. We were reading a book about it. And I was reading to my group, and on the page where it talks about why his book name is Born of Crime, because he was born of crime. If the people see that you're lighter and you may be dark, or like any race you are, and they see that you're lighter, they're just gonna say, oh, you're with the white people, you know, you get treated this way. And they'll just go based off your color and put you where they think you should go. And not knowing that Trevor Noah was like, not knowing Trevor Noah's mom was raped by a white man, what she was not supposed to do. So she had to lie to the doctors and tell them like, oh, this is his dad, or, you know, this is that when he was born, that's why he was born a crime. Because though during apartheid, they were separating, you know, Trevor Noah and them. And in one of the parts of the story, it talks about him and his dog, and the dog that he had, and how a white woman tried to take his dog away from him because the dog was white. And like where he said growing up in like a Black community, Black people didn't have cats. They thought cats were like bad for the white people. They, you know, go against the Black people, like scratch them and stuff. Black people didn't have cats back then during apartheid. They had dogs. So when Trevor got his dog, Patricia Noah, you know, she was just telling Trevor, like when the dog went behind the fence, they didn't know he was deaf. So the white woman was like, oh, you have to pay me $1,000 to have my dog back. But it wasn't her dog, it was his dog. They only took it as that because the dog was white, which white people didn't carry dogs at the time. And that's how Trevor knew the woman was lying. And Trevor was like, I'll say 12, like when his dog got lost, but not knowing that the dog was deaf. So whenever they had called her, she didn't hear. Or whenever she had, you know, heard a sound like a car or something, she couldn't hear. She'll look at it and then run away. She didn't physically know what she was hearing. So that made Trevor, you know, more interested in why she had run away and why the people weren't giving her back.
Before we transition, yes.
Yeah, I can't let go of the camera, but
Yeah.
I wanted to add, what you guys are talking about, there's a similar, there is a TV show called Black in Latin America by, Henry Gates, like
Yes.
Henry something Junior Gates, right? Henry Louis Gates, there we go. And it's like, it went for many seasons, right? And even like the Haitian slash. Yeah, they're having that battle back and forth between the light and dark people to where it separates them. Like they're all sharing a cultural thing on the shoreline or something like that, but one might think they're better than the other because they're lighter, you know? And also to the Trevor Noah comment, I think you had mentioned and you said that the mother was raped during apartheid. I don't think the dad, I read the book too, but the way they described it, and Trevor Noah jokes about it present day, and he goes, yeah, the Swiss, you know how the Swiss, like, they love dark chocolate. So I don't think he would be joking like that if his mother was raped. So it was a crime that the two couldn't be together, but the European white guy, I don't believe he raped the mother. I just want to clarify that.
Okay.
Thanks.
We all get a chance to double check that. I like that.
Okay.
I was gonna ask this, or at least get ready to transition to the hair part. White friends, white family member, or light skinned friends, light skinned family members, light opportunity, real estate, wherever you work at. Have you sensed that when you went up there together, your light-skinned friend and you, that there was favor more towards the light-skinned person in terms of knowing your stuff or your knowledge, in terms of your skill level, whether you work with your hands, you felt like they automatically assumed that this person was more trustworthy or believable than you, and how did you feel at that situation or that moment or whatever?
I could say it's coming from the the light skin side. And I was just thinking about that too, that the expectation differs between the light skin. From my experience in church, there was a more onus of responsibility placed on me. I feel now, looking back in hindsight, because I was light skinned. Not only because of my gifts, you know, I do acknowledge I was gifted and everybody recognized that, but also my behavior, my character. My church friends would get away with a lot more stuff than I could. They were running like kids will do and play. Oh no, Aaron, you're not supposed to. You're not supposed to do that, or you know, when it came time to, you know, have somebody speak up, you know, when you get, well, when you have Bible school and everything, and you got to get up in front of class or children's story, whatever. It was always me that was pushed to the front. I had to know what I was talking about. I had to know my lessons. I had to do this. I had to do that, and a lot of my friends didn't. They could just slide and just, you know, because the expectation, I believe, was lowered because of the color of their skin. You know, but on the flip side,
Yeah.
when I did go for jobs, you know, a lot of times give the benefit of the doubt. Because even when they look at the skin, they just automatically figure, well, you know, he's light skinned, he can speak properly. You know, he knows how to fill out an application, he's intelligent, and without even me uttering a word, but just by looking at the color of my skin, they just automatically. So it did work for me. It did work for me when it was going out. I had very little problems getting the job.
Who's more likely to be in the house on the plantation, lighter or dark? So the darker one could fix the meal, right?
Yeah, but they had dark was in the house, but they stayed in the kitchen.
They had to be hidden.
Right.
So I want you to think about that, how that permeates into real life today. Have we really shaken that thing? Why is darker supposedly uglier? Have we really looked at that thing? You seen a little child when they're testing this thing out, and they're asking the child, which one is the bad, the light skin one or dark, and they keep pointing at this one. Well, why? Which one is the one that's most likely to get in trouble? You know, if you can put all your point, kept pointing to the why, you know, the most dangerous, this one. They kept asking the kid why you said, pick it up, said because it's black. Which one's the ugly? The dark. Because it's black. Now I'm saying they didn't even reach adults. Where'd they get the message?
Right.
Where'd they get the message? And where do we fight this thing, and how do we start? Because as someone said earlier, it's not expressed in church.
Right.
Nobody's rolling up to you, but it's, can you pick it up? Can you simply say, no, I need you to date this one because the offspring, there's a lot of unexpressed fears that go on that we're playing these games, and we're not really, you know, actually talking about the elephant in the room.
Can I just say this? So even though people not coming up to, it's that internal thing about how you feel about yourself. So you already assuming that you're not good enough to be in that space, or that they're thinking that you don't qualify, or you, so it's an internal thing too.
And where you got that from growing up where your family members are like.
Yeah,
so it's
so it's that,
Yeah,
so even I'm already insecure before I even walk in the room.
Yeah. I got you.
Especially if there's a lot of people that's lighter than me. So I'm already feeling that insecurity, like what they thinking, you know, so you go through that. So it's that internal thing. So
You tell your children what to prepare for,
you know,
or is that just another?
I'll tell you this,
Unspoken.
when my baby was little, my daughter, she she's fair skinned, right? And so I remember now she embraces, so she loves, cause she says she has the red tone. She likes getting dark, right? She thinks she looks good. People told her that once the sun hit her, she would be pretty. But prior to that, when she was a little girl, my feelings was so hurt. Cause she would go outside and she'd be like, oh, I can't do the sun, Mom. And she said it slipped and she didn't want to get dark. And I was so sad about that, you know? I'm like, you're my baby. I'm like, bro, I was kind of angry too. I'm like, where you get that? But that's because she in school, I don't know where it really came from, but now it's like, so then when she started embracing it, because somebody was told her, because she said, they say I have red tone when I get dark, Mom, so I don't mind the sun. So she loves it, and now she don't have those bitches, because she's grown, she knows everybody's beautiful. But it just went to her, I'm like, what the heck? Am I living with somebody's color structure? Get out there.
That's interesting. That's interesting. You brought up a good point when you said that, because for me, it was, I felt like I was caught in the middle, right? I wasn't, I wasn't white, but I felt like, okay, well, I'm not black like I'm not dark like my mother. So where do I fall in there? And I remember every time summer would come, and me and my sister, we'd get like baby oil, lather ourselves up, and we'd be out there in the sun. And my mother would be like, what you doing? Like, why are you trying to get dark? And I remember telling her the opposite. I said, Mom, I want to be your color.
Mm-hmm.
And she was just kind of like, what? Like, why would you want to be my color? Mm-hmm. And I was like, no, your color is beautiful. Like, I want to be that color. And then when I had my boy, I made sure that I always pumped into them how beautiful their color is, how beautiful their hair texture is. And if anybody said anything, about their hair texture, their hair color, they're ignorant, it's like this and that. So it's interesting.
By the way, to this day, if we're wanting to eat outside, your mama's chair is in the sun. My chair is in the shade. Just want y'all to know that's how we eat. People come around, what's wrong with them two right there? I gotta have some sun. I gotta too much sun for me. But anyway, my point is that as people have gone through that, we gotta pump into the next generation.
Yes.
Your beauty is God made you in his image.
Yes.
We're fearfully, wonderfully made. Your beauty, and you can't allow other people that made you, because I like that you can read it, you can sense it. We all have that. Some people call it the third eye, the third ear, but you have that extra sense that God gives you, that people are really coming at you because of this. It's just people think you're sensitive if you speak it out.
Yeah.
But sometimes you got to call truth what it is and just take the consequences.
Yeah.
And then be able to say, look in yourself in the mirror, and then we got to recalibrate. We got to rehash this and tell. So that's why when you see these selections on, you got to ask me, why'd you do that? Why'd you select that person? What's really the skill level is different. There are property values that go up and down.
Yeah.
Based on.
Mm-hmm.
They can resell your car, but not from you. But you give it to this place, it's gonna sell. See, these are things that get unspoken, but we gotta check it.
Mm-hmm.
And people in the church are responsible, like God had to call them, hey, you
Yeah.
three, come here. Look, I speak to a prophet. Moses speaks to me face to face.
All right.
If he want a black woman, I gave her to, but you two can't be talking like that. And it is ironic that the leprous was the color or the opposite of what God was blessing.
Yep.
You gotta remember that.
Pastor, I love that too.
Yeah.
Because it speaks of, even back then, we've got to face the truth. You know what I'm saying? They went around.
Mhm.
Yeah.
They didn't come out and say, we don't like you because your wife is black.
Right.
They attacked his character,
Yeah.
they attacked his position. But God gets angry. And I think the point is that we are all made in the image of God. And this is, I think, what God is saying in that story, that just because her color makes her no less precious. So if you talk about her, you offended me, you insulted me. Got to be very careful, of the consequences of doing that. So I think it's a wonderful message that we have to internalize. whatever color.
So
We are
look,
made in the image of God.
have you ever changed your hairstyle because you knew it fit in? One, or Miss European over there told you it's the way to go. And black people, we made people that made hot combs rich. Cause we put it on the oven, we sizzle that bad boy. Well, come back and join us. We're gonna get some hair stories a little bit. That's why I don't have hair right now.
Same here.
I Jerry curl, I burn it, I straight hair it.
Clay, I was waiting for you to clap.
Oh.
Your skin color is like.
You're heck
All right.
Hey, welcome back. We are here with some additions here, and I'm bald, Eric. I don't even know what yours look like, but I was telling everyone into the break that in my teenage years, I was very adventurous because I was trying every style. I was just telling our camera person that I was impressed by the Hawkins brothers, all the music they were doing. But when I saw their hairs like processed or kind of laid, I said, Mom, I want to try that. I want to try that. So she got the hot comb and went through it. And on another occasion, she processed it, got the stuff, and my hair was on fire. I did the jerry curl. One of my aunts up here flew up here just to get the jerry curl. With one of the sisters at Market Street saying, your hair looks like a wet mop. So finally, I figured God just said, Gabriel, go get that fool's hair, because he don't know. Hey, what he doing? He can't take no style. I had an afro. I know it's hard to believe. I had a cake cutter. I know it's hard to believe. So I loved Afro Sheen. In fact, I used Watu as one of my names that I thought I was calling myself beautiful, but I was calling myself people. Beautiful people use Afro Sheen. Y'all remember that commercial?
Yes.
Watu Wazuri use Afro Sheen. Anyway, so ladies, how many times have you changed your hairstyle, colored it, and what were the reasons you were going through experiencing at the time of your life when you did that? Because everybody here, Black women are the most creative hair specialists the world has ever known. I've never seen this. Even European women follow some both there, but follow some. Okay, y'all didn't catch that.
Kardashian.
All right, go to work.
Well, I will say I've been the first to be very cautious about how I appear to people. If my hair is wrapped or if it's natural. And I've cut my hair several times. And so when I do, it's like, well, how am I going to appear to people if I'm in a corporate situation? And it becomes a thing of like, I don't want to go because unless I have a wig, I'm not corporate enough. My name is already like kind of ethnic, right? And so it's like, I have to figure out how to fit into their world. Because I know I can talk the talk, but the first thing they're gonna see is my hair. So how is that gonna come across? So I've definitely fixed that. And then also within our culture, I would just speak for like, I remember my mom used to always say, like with my big mama, she was a light-skinned lady with kind of straightish hair. And my mom always had locks. And she said to her, like, baby, don't you love me? And it was like her wearing locks for some reason was like it was unkempt. Like she shouldn't have had her hair like that. And I believe that she struggled with that because she cut it several times and then had it again. So as we were also speaking about in the church with locks and what that means sometimes, even when I went to Jamaica, I had locks and they would be like, oh, she's Ras. Like, that's just what they say. And like, because it came from the Rastafarian movement. And it also associates them with guerrilla warfare, right? And so it's like, no, we don't do that in the church, and I think they would rather adapt to the straight European influence than what you naturally already have on your head.
That's interesting talking about locks. To be honest, I hated them.
Really?
I hated locks, when you looked on people, that was not something I liked. I remember I was that girl that would get in the mirror with my long white shirt and be swinging my hair. That was me, you know what I'm saying? Although I couldn't do hair though. So I always had to be at the beck and call of someone else to do it, you know? And occasionally I would have my natural, you know, I remember my cousin, the one, my sister that left here, was talking about that side of the family. Because of the colorism, you know, of course, we look at them as being beautiful because they, you know, you see on TV, all you saw were white people, right? They're close to white. So what do I have that I can compare to that? I had my hair. So it was long. And I remember we get in the mirror and we both be comparing the length and stuff. But my hair had to be longer than hers because that means that my beauty was a little, you know, I had a little bit of, you know, I was a little bit up on her when it came to the beauty with the hair. One day her hair was longer than mine. That was so devastating. Because I was like, wow, she light skinned it, she got the beauty, now she got the hair. But moving on forward to that lot journey, I remember I got so tired of, you know, my hair was falling out. I was trying to diet, trying to keep with the, you know, with the sun's coming. I've always been a different person. You know, I wasn't that person really into the trend. So it was always kind of hard to do that. And I remember one time I saw this one woman, she was in the store and her hair was it wasn't locked, it was just twisted. But it was so beautiful because it was natural. There was one point in my life where I did just have my sister just braid my hair. I don't want to put no perms or nothing, just braid it. And then I would roll it up and then be all curly, you know. So that was my my natural time. But I saw her hair and I was struggling. I was struggling, you know, just with my personal life. And then I was struggling. And you know, with women, it's always about our hair, right? We're going through something, we're going to cut it, we're going to do something to it. Like, what can I do to my hair? I'm not that person. I'm not that one that can, you know, if I do go natural, I can't do all those beautiful things. I didn't take after my parents, the beautician, their gene. So I was seeing her and I was like, oh, she's so beautiful. And God said to me, that's what I want you to do to your hair. I'm like, what? I want you to twist your hair. And I was like, so then he said, basically, I want you to lock your hair, right? And I was like, oh no, we can't, I cannot do that. I said, first of all, you know, I'm trying to get me a man and stuff. You know, they don't like that because they want the long hair. They want all that, you know, that I want that makeup person, you know, it's no funny thing. I said, I can't do that. I mean, he said, look, you're trying to get people to, to want to, you know, to find you attractive. He said, but the person that you really should be trying to please is me. Now I'm asking you to do this. And he said, I'm gonna tell you something. If you do this, he said, from this point on, when you walk in your authentic self, I'm gonna draw people to you that are gonna be true as well. So people around you from this point are gonna be true people, you know. And so I remember, now my hair, mind you, was like, okay, I had a short natural at this time. Like, it was really short. So I meant that they were going to look like little, you know, the one thing that twisted at your length, but at the beginning, I was like, oh my God, are you telling me to do this? And I didn't have anybody do it. I did it myself. He said, yeah, okay, do it. So coming up was a colonia, was a woman's colonia, where there's like hundreds of women that would be there, right? I went there every year. And so he said, okay, do it. I said, okay, I'm gonna do it, Lord, because you know what? You're right. I love you. I want to please you. And this is what you're asking me to do, I'm gonna do it. I said, but if anybody say one thing about my hair at this thing, it's over. I'm not doing it. It's a wrap. So I had my hair all, you know, it was looking all crazy. And I went to the colonia and all of a sudden these women was like, oh, your hair looks so beautiful. And it was like, they're giving me all this affirmation. And I knew that at that point that God had, you know, this was something he wanted me to do, and that was going to be our journey. And I've been on that journey ever since. And he was true to his word, because the people that, matter of fact, both of my best friends now, they're locking their hairs now. So it's like on this journey of me going to like walking in my truth, as far as my relationship with God, it seemed to kind of start spreading to my friends and, you know, of course, my sister was always that way, but, yeah, so it just started spreading, and I found that I was able to be myself because there was nothing hiding, right? I wasn't trying to hide behind the hair, I didn't do the makeup thing, I wasn't about the beauty, wasn't that anymore.
Yeah, there you go.
I think what you see is what you get.
Mhm.
So if you're gonna come around me, it's what
There
you're
you
gonna
go.
get.
I like
And attend the people that came were the people that were searching the same way I was searching.
And I happen to know.
Oh,
That's not in the script, bro. That's not in the script. That's not in the script. I don't know where that comes from. Glad he loved me. I'm just saying, Wakanda has had women go bald. Now, I want y'all to remember the day that, or have you ever sat between a maternal grandmother, aunt, mother's knees to have your hair worked?
yeah,
What was that like?
horrible,
Yeah.
torture,
Yes.
pain,
Well,
PTSD,
Burning.
burn my
you
ear.
remember Bernie?
Yes.
What was your mother, what were they saying to you as they were?
Don't move your hand.
Yeah.
A lot of times when the conversation about hair, black hair come up, it seems to be so much trauma behind it, and it is a lot of trauma behind it. And I don't think I ever too much hear. "Ooh, I didn't really hear." But it's okay now that I've been.
There you go.
But I mean, I guess I kind of want to offer a perspective because, like, I mean, I've had all hairstyles. I've had fade, I have lock style, where my hair natural wash and go. And I guess coming from a person who has maybe had the privilege of not having anyone like criticize my hair texture, and I've not had a complex with my hair. I never have had a complex with my hair.
Right.
So, I've changed it up a lot, and I'm aware that people do, you know, even when it comes to the kind of conversation about like kind of colorism, all of that is like seems like a really trauma-filled space a lot of times. And I'm objectively aware that it exists.
Yeah.
At the same time, and even though that it's, I've had an ex one time tell me light-skinned women are like more pretty because their features are clearer, but like it's never, like you can see it better. I
Right,
thought
right.
that sounds right. But it's never affected me kind of personally. I never felt less beautiful in
Right.
my hair. I've never felt like it was a complex for me, whether it was short. And I always am curious about
Good.
what might inspire, you know, people to have that experience. And would it be like, coming from a person who is taught, because I'm again fully aware that when you're in a more privileged state, like if you're walking through a room and people are you have pretty hair, you're never probably going to have confidence about your hair. But at the same time, being objectively aware, like I wear locks right now. I know that there's a lot of it. I don't twist my locks. So a lot of people have told me, you know, it would be nicer if you make it neater if you would twist your locks and make it. And I'm like, I think it looks great, you know.
Yeah.
So I don't know, and I'm always curious in these spaces because I'm wondering if there's a way to bring kind of like some kind of joy to the conversation about the hair and the features and stuff like that. Because at how do we share that? Like how do we ask people to embrace their own features without like denying their trauma space at the same time? Because
One question
I've
being,
never-
how long has your mother had the locks?
my mom has had natural hair my entire life.
So that's what you remember.
But this is my sister. And
Yeah.
we don't have the same hair experience. So that's why I'm saying.
Yeah, I got
Because, you know, she does have hair complex and she has in our entire life. It's tender headed. I mean, I don't want to
No,
share
it's
something. Because I mean, no, but you know, if she's getting her hair toned. And she's crying, and honestly, I used to think she was faking. I was like, this is not real. This can't be real. This is ridiculous. You can't, you're being ridiculous, you know? Later on, you have to understand that everyone's like experience is different, but how can we share, how can I encourage you that when I'm looking at you, I'm seeing beauty in you just as much as mine without discarding your lived experience, without telling you that you shouldn't, you know, have the same experience. Like obviously we come from the same mom and totally different experiences. I don't have hair because she has had a deep one, and still we talked about her hair this morning.
You know what I'm saying? And so it's not just about your, it can't be just about your upbringing, it has to be other stuff, but how can people who are objectively looking at you, like, I love, I used to say, your hair is great, it's beautiful, like, you know, but when a person has that complex week, is there a way to share it that you can believe us without me saying, like, you're tripping? Like, I know that you have this trauma, I know that you all have had these traumas. How can I share the joy? How can I bring you into the space that I'm in without saying your trauma is obsolete, right?
Yeah.
How do we do that?
I think a lot of shadow work needs to be done for people who've been traumatized by the industry of beauty, particularly hair, particularly texturism. For someone with a tighter coil pattern that may not know how to care for that type of pattern, but all of the commercials and products that are being advertised are for a different type of hair pattern. I will then internalize that my hair is no good and I as a person may not be good because I'm not able to equate to any type of beauty standard now because I can't manage the thing that determines beauty in a woman. Long hair, moisturized hair, hair with sheen. I haven't been properly taught that my hair is silk. I am a plant. Therefore, I must water, I must moisturize, and also nurture my hair. I can't rush and just comb really fast as someone with maybe a looser curl pattern can. I have to take my time and be delicate and put healthy things in my body so that it then sprouts from my crown. And therefore, I can develop a deeper and greater appreciation for, again, all of God's glory that has been manifested in my presence because I am divinely and wonderful.
There you go.
So I'm thinking of my daughter, and I think it's the power of a child internalizing something and it won't shake itself. It's so strong. So my daughter, hi Jennifer, if you're watching this, she when she went to a school that no teacher looked like her, and she's the fairest of my children, but lighter skin. She's not light skinned, but she's lighter than my boys. But I remember her coming home and she was already in elementary school speaking about her hair because the friends at school were all these white kids, and how come my hair doesn't lay down like that? And that used to bother me as a Black father because I was like, well, you set the wrong school. Because I feel like the models, like I said, I was about to mention, what's her name? Lupita, I can't say her last name. I mean, is she a great model for not only skin color, but how she does her hair and wears it proudly? So you get, Lupita wasn't on the scene when my girl was coming up. So I had to validate that as a Black father. And I didn't even know I do hair, but I remember having to sit and work on her head before she went to school. And I was always trying to get my turn at Jennifer's hair pre-swimming pool, not post. Simply because I didn't know how to work all that, but I had to watch, learn, try to figure out, and for all the way up into her adult life, she didn't mind her dad working on her hair because I never tried to straighten it. I never tried to make it look like whatever she was seeing at school. And I underestimated what that meant. How do we all get validated by, we had these terms called bad hair, good hair, and tough hair, and rough hair, and sit down, oh my God, I gotta do something about this. So I think that's how some of it gets stuck in. I admire the point of you being able, at so young, to be able to not let it affect you. That's the kind of model we need more of, and I think that's your question of how we can get going. That's even for brothers who could or could not wear afros. You know what I'm saying is hair is way more powerful and impactful than I think we've ever thought about it.
And I think that trauma is more, I mean, I know we're talking about hair texture, right? That brings trauma to some, but maybe for some, trauma looks something different. It might not be connected to how you look. You might be fine with how you look and you think, but maybe you seek other outlets that might not be as healthy
Mhm.
because you're still trying to deal with your trauma, right? And so, when we talk about like, how do people get there?
Mhm.
You gotta do that, if you have Christ in your life, if you have God in your life,
Mhm.
you have to do that internal work,
Mhm.
right? On top of what I like what Maisha said, coming to an understanding that God made us all unique.
Mhm.
And if we can embrace the uniqueness from how tight or loose our curls are to our curves, because we talked about body shaming last time, like all of those things come into play. Colorism, I forget the other term that you were just talking about. All of those things come into play
Mhm.
in terms of, if we've had trauma, right?
Mhm.
And if it's connected, well, what is it connected to? If it is connected to your skin color, if it is connected to your hair, if it is connected to your body type,
Mhm.
right? Well, then that's where you're going to identify
Mhm.
your trauma. But if it's not connected to any of those things, there's still outlets that you're seeking
Mhm.
because you still have some trauma.
So I was
It
gonna
might
ask,
not be physical.
what voice is stronger? My father, because I'm going back on corporate America and how these sisters came in the same mom and see things different. And I'm sure that's the way every family. Which voice is stronger? Black man tells me to get into work. He says, you got biblical reasons to have your beat. He said, but the white man ain't gonna hire you.
Mhm.
You have a beard and you don't have a European tie set on.
Mhm.
This is what I'm trying to get in ministry,
Mhm.
right? Versus my father and them at home saying, no, you look all right. Now, my dad was really on their side, but I'm using that as an example to avoid the trauma, get through the trauma. Whose voice is stronger at the time? My mom saying, it's rough hair, or those of you have to go through that, it's rough hair, or the person out there saying, no, it's okay to be that way. Because corporate America had an image. I'm thinking about the young boy on the wrestling team. He had locks and they held him down and cut his locks off. And, just so he could make it win for the team, they didn't want that image if they won. They were going to win the state championship. He's 16, 17, 8. Does he live with that forever and ever?
Mhm.
He can grow the locks back.
Mhm. But the trauma.
That's what I'm saying. Which voice was stronger? Did he see his mom speaking up for him, go up there and sue the school? I think that's where your question was. How do we solve and deal with all these traumas that are so connected to a physical feature that God gave in the Bible says, the crown of a woman is the hair. So,
Whichever voice is louder.
Yeah.
Because, you talk.
louder impactful. What you
I
you can,
think-
you know,
I think for me, whichever voice is louder in your head.
Yeah.
Right? So which one you resonate with? So we talked about before, when we talked about body image, your parents can tell you you're beautiful.
Yeah.
My mom used to say, you're so beautiful. I'm like, you gotta say that, you're my mom. But I
Yeah.
didn't believe that, right? And so for me, if I never had a situation with colorism. I've always been, I'm black and I'm proud, you know what I mean? Like, so where I have a really good friend who, I said I was dark skinned. And she said, so if you're dark skinned, what am I? She's Maisha's color.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not light skinned. She said, I'm not light skinned. She was like, if you say you're dark skinned, where do I fit? Where's my place? But that's because she's had trauma with skin color, and that hasn't been my trauma. My trauma comes from my face, what I look like, my features, and my hair. So whereas people say, oh, you have good hair, I always said my sister had good hair. My mom and my sister have good hair. And whether she had locks, whether she had a pressing curl, whatever she had, anything, to me, it was always good hair, or her texture is different. But I'm very particular about framing things. If I ever hear one of the kids say good hair, I'm like, what is good hair? If you have hair, you have good hair.
Yeah.
It's hair, like I speak it, but that doesn't mean it's been internalized. Because for me, the louder voices, it was always this, it felt like punishment to get my hair done. And then when I finally stopped doing that, then it was like, the only thing I could do, because I didn't feel like going through all the pain, I would just literally take a rag, I would use like a stocking thing and just tie it up in like a little fro, and that's it. I wore that for I don't know how many years. Then I started to care more and do the wig and stuff like that, but it was always like, if I do a wig, my hair is falling out. If I do braids, my hair is falling out. The only time I can grow my hair long enough is if I have locks. If I have locks and I twist it too much, because you were saying like, oh, you should twist it to make it nice. I would never have an unkempt locks. I always had to have it twisted. All right, now I'm getting traction alopecia because so it's like, always my hair falling, it's always this thing, right? That's the loudest to me because I'm still dealing with it. I haven't been able to get over that.
And that's interesting. You talk about traction alopecia. So for me, I had to deal with, because of the mixture I have, my hair is wavy curly. So it's not even like really curly, it's wavy curly. It's very frizzy, but it can grow. Whereas my mother's hair will not grow past here because her texture is different. It breaks a lot, right? And I didn't realize how much in your family, and I heard Juliet talk about, how you measure, like how long, your hair. I didn't realize all the self-worth we put into our hair until I got alopecia. So now my son is like, Mom, you have a bald spot in the back of your head. And I'm like, what? And he had to like take a picture of it and show me. Like he was all traumatized.
He was tall enough to look down.
Right.
He was all traumatized, like, oh my gosh, and I'm looking at it, and now it's not just one spot. Now it's more of it and more of it, and to like where almost this whole spot was like bald. And I had never cut my hair short. Why? Because I realized that I always had the privilege of having long hair, and my hair grew fast, and I didn't have to worry about any of that. I had other traumas with my hair being bushy and all that kind of stuff. But that's, anyway. So now I'm like, what am I gonna do? Right? Like, am I gonna wear a wig? Am I gonna, and I started mourning. Like, even if I want to braid my hair, if I want to, and I started thinking about like all those times that I colored my hair, that I did this, that I did other, right? Or the times that I took my hair for granted and did not take care of it, like I should have taken care of it, and I realized at that moment that now I was in that space of the woman who does not have the ideal hair or does not have, they're not there anymore. I realized that my privilege was always that I had my hair, and I was never in that position. Like, what would happen if I'm completely bald, right? And I remember going through that, and I remember telling the pastor,
That part.
finally, it got to the point where I was like, where God was telling me, you've put too much value in the wrong place, and you didn't even know it. Right? And I told Pastor, I said, I heard God say, you're just gonna have to try bald. That's what I felt I heard him say, right? And I told Pastor, I said, well, get your clippers ready. I said, because I am going to because I said to the Lord, I said, if I'm going to be bald, I need to be comfortable seeing myself bald. And as long as I'm healthy, as long as I have, the things that, you start realizing what's important. At that point, being healthy was the most important thing.
Right.
It wasn't my hair anymore. It wasn't the other things that I had put value in, right? And so I'm like, okay, go ahead. I need you to shave it off. And he looked at me, he's like, he's like, I'm not the one that's going to do that. Because he was like, just, give it some time. Like, because I think you have to say this, but I don't know if he felt like I gotten too rash. Like, well, fine, I'm just gonna, and then regret it later.
Well, part of it was that's all she's known is long hair.
Yeah.
So it could add another traumatic experience. I'd much rather the beauty,
The barber.
those people do it than to have to see this is your husband snatching off your hair. So that experience of cutting her hair was those hours. It wasn't just.
Yes, because I was like, just get it over with. No, he's taking his time. Like, then we get to a certain length.
And I said,
he's
look
like-
at it.
Yeah, he's like, are you okay? Should we go? I'm like, yeah, like already, like I already had this conversation we got, like, it's gonna be okay. But it was and I think I wanted you to go shorter.
Mhm.
And he was like, no, I think we're good. And it was probably maybe an inch or less long. And I looked at myself and I looked completely different. But for the first time, I saw myself in the mirror and I said, this is how God sees me. He does not see everything else that we focus on. He sees me. And I think that when we get to that point, right, then these traumas that or these things that we attach our value to, it's not until the thing that you think is the most valuable gets taken away from that part.
Yeah.
You know, if you've been blessed with beautiful long hair and you've had no problem and it just goes away and you have no control over it, it's like, at that point, you're just dealing with you and God.
And the products change because you learn to take care of what you now have. You know? You appreciate that and things like that. No, that's a good story. That's good. Those things are part of it. Yes.
Well, I can identify with that because, I had the pressure of, being, people pleaser, being a little bit different, not always, wasn't that life of the party person, always a lot of times by myself. And here it is, okay, I'm already different and I'm dark. Okay. I'm tripping like you, tripping off my features and stuff. And here it is, you're saying like your hair, trust me. You say you love, I'm the one you should please. I'm the one that should be, your source of adoration. Like, so if you do this, trust me, it's the people that you are trying to, you want real people around you. They're gonna come. And it was true, when he did that, it was like a weight that lifted off of me. I could look, like you said, look in that mirror and say, this is, he loves me just like this. Even though I didn't like this, but he meant the very thing I did not like is the thing that he chose that he wanted me to walk with, which allowed people to come, and like, yeah, the people that I have in my life truly are people that, for some reason they want to keep it real. They,
Neil, what made you stick to this? We all love this, by the way, but you came to this and we watched you come to this. What was your process that got you to this stuff?
Okay, so sophomore year, maybe, I flat ironed my hair my whole life. My mom, love her to death, conditioned me though for big events or, anything like prom, flat iron your hair. That's the most like professional, So I just got so acclimated to just flat ironing my hair that it started to be like heat damage. But I loved it so much. I'd rather prioritize heat damaged hair than have like nice and full and curly, kinky hair. And it just got to a point where my hair was like, it was looking crazy. I didn't even want to cut it, but it was falling out because it was heat damaged hair. So probably wow, that is crazy. You guys did realize like I did make this transition like probably 2 months ago, maybe. I tried it and I was just like, wow, I am pretty like this. And it was just, it happened that quick. Now I can't stop. Like I'll never let her. I just can't stop. But I think I still have issues because I'm not gonna go out if it's like this.
Gotcha,
It has to be like you're fine.
Gotcha.
It has to have like 100 products in it. So
Work
it's
in
still
progress.
it's a work in progress for sure. But I'm very thankful that like I've gotten to this place because if you would have told me 5 years ago that I would be here, I'd think, no, that's so ugly.
Right.
I would never. But
Speaking of still, I remember one time I was having like an emotional breakdown, right? And I came to church and a couple of the ladies had prayed over me and I wore heels. So they were hurting my feet, right? And I got them praying, they got them praying, I think it was you, Sister Roma, and a couple of people, and so I put my shoes back on, because those are the only shoes, and I'm not walking on the bare floor. She said, don't put pain back on. And I was like, no, she said, don't put pain back on. You just got done, release you from that. And the reason I'm thinking about that is my ear is hurting so bad because of how tight it is. And it's like, but I have to, it has to, because, and I just recently cut it again, being emotional, right? And it's short. So I'm like, okay, I can't look this way, so I have to have it wrapped. But I don't like it when it's back. It's like, I just have to deal with this pain on my ear. And it's like the things that we
That's a good point.
put ourselves through, like, for what?
That's a
Yes.
third right there.
It comes from, I think, it comes from body identity, all the things, but I mean, shameless plug, we will be having a Juneteenth.
Yes. Oh, it ain't saying this.
Identity.
It ain't saying this.
Saying I'm not offer coming, but the
Yes.
thing is, it's this European mentality, this
Yes.
European ideology is why that's so important, because you go to certain places, and like a lot of Nigerians nowadays, they do the wigs and straighten their hair, but you go to certain places in Africa and it's beautiful to have your hair, bald. Or it's beautiful to have the short hair. A lot of schoolgirls, they go to boarding school in Kenya, their hair is cut short because they don't take care of it. You have to worry about your books, right? And that's beauty. And nobody's trying to figure out, are you a guy or like, it's just, who you are. But it's this European ideology of white is right, straight is better, those types of things, like the softer features is better. Even babies will tell you, they'll say babies will cry if they see an ugly person because your face is not, symmetrical or whatever. It's like all these perceptions from a different worldview than what we were made for.
I'm gonna say something really quick though. While we sit here hating on ourselves, right? They love our hair.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had a person look at my hair and before I could even say no, they're like, they're admiring, can I just
Right, Bo Day. Come on, Bo Day.
But I'm just saying, these are things, we
Yeah.
spend so much time trying to be like somebody else and, and they're actually, they condone it on, but inwardly, they admire it, I see them sometimes with their hair braided now. There's some of them are locking their hair. So we sit here and spend so much time, trying to be like somebody else, and that somebody else is trying to be like us.
Right.
Where we
I think just like we have 46 shades color. And I don't know if you've ever been to a hair show or you've seen a hair show. Black women hair it's just so adaptable. And I've seen some of these hairstyles at this hair show. That's like there was one where they actually made this lady's hair into like a bird cage and had a live bird.
Oh.
And she could open up the back of her hair and the sparrow would fly out. And I just sat there just marveling at how all this, it was all women of color, or just the same Black women could really just do things for their hair. But I was raised by my grandma. And so I was always around women from this, and this is why I feel comfortable. So I've seen that side, but I've always seen too that the bonding sessions, like the Saturday mornings when they would get together. But there's one experience, because I was always going either to there or to the hair shop. I'd be the only little boy in the hair shop. And this lady I think she was having an experience like you. So she's behind the chair, and this woman was and one of the hairstylists, they were trying to style her hair, and they realized they was cutting it. And I asked and she kind of explained to me much about hair. But the experience was I was watching her as the stylist was cutting her hair. She was just whispering. She was just ministering to her. You know what I'm saying? And the whole thing was, even in my young age, it was kind of religious, you know? And I remember at the end, you know, she was consoling her, she was affirming her. At the same time, she was helping her to adapt. And I remember God saying that this is kind of like what the church is supposed to be.
Yeah,
You know, Black men and Black women have always gone to barbershops and hair shops, the sanctuary, because that's where we film. We could come and, no pun intended, let our hair down. You know, we would speak of things while we were working our hair, things that we couldn't speak outside, that we could speak to each other. And, you know, I think that's how we are supposed to be as a church, you know, because we're talking about this hair, it's a very real thing. But sometimes, like, you almost said, like you said, it's just the root, not trying to put another pun, but sometimes it's the root of the problem. But if we could all just kind of minister, like I seen that stuff, like I seen my aunts when they got together and just build that person up, it would go a long way.
So walk with confidence. Walk like that's the way God made you and would have you to be. It makes a statement that God didn't make a mistake. God don't make no accidents. He knows what he's doing, and he gave you the stewardship ability to shape it and do whatever you want with what he's done for you. We just, I was about to preach real early in the morning, South Africa, 6:30 program I was on. And I heard all this screaming on the side where they actually were tossing this young teenager out, having her up like this and walked her out. And then she was in the side room as I was trying to begin to preach, but I stopped and I had everybody sing, "Oh, how I love Jesus." Anyway, what they were doing was that they were over there trying to cast a demon out. Now, all this time I kept saying, we gotta sing because that's our friend. And we gotta make sure that what I really loved about that young lady is when I went, after I finished preaching, they brought me to her. And she wanted to actually come meet me. Her hair probably looked like you put it right in the head, in the socket, and it just poof. And she began to talk about, she didn't remember anything that was going on with her experience. But I took a picture with her and I put that on Facebook. Some people saw the freedom and other people saw the flaw. Some people, the people saw the flaw were like, ugh, you know. The people that saw the freedom saw the how beautiful. And that's what I'm trying to say. No matter what the traumas we were saying, God sees the beautiful. And if we can kind of pass that message on to say, you know what? God sees the beautiful. I see the beautiful. We hope to have a hair day right here in the village. What are we gonna do? You want braid, whatever style you want barber. We're gonna do it here for you. Just get ready and stay tuned and listen to that. Tell them once again about Juneteenth though.
Juneteenth celebration, we're having an emancipation conference, June 16th and 17th. Author Akilah Karanja will be here to speak about her book, The Emancipated Gospel. The village will also be there speaking about health, how we can get freedom from some of these things that bind us, what we eat. And Marriage Matters, the Smiths will also be there talking about getting freedom within of marriage and within relationships. And it's okay for us people of color to be in covenants, to be in relationships. So you can get your tickets. It's not really a ticket, but we have a $10 fee, so we can just help out with the cost for food. $10 donation, and we'll be there Friday evening and Saturday all day.
Right. Make sure you're with us. Her name is Christina Williamson. She's on she's an ESPN sports analyst. Have you seen her? She's completely bald. I'll show my panel this. Out of New York, does a great job, interviews people on sports. She's done the best, but she took that bold step to say, this is what I want to do, change the image. It takes, we have to increase the image for what our little girls look up to, what our boys look up to, and be able to do that. So remember the description, was it John on the Isle of Patmos?
Yes.
He saw the woolly hair, right?
Hmm,
It's very interesting that he went to that,
hmm.
because maybe one day they knew in the United States of America, we were gonna have to appreciate what God gave us. This is the village signing off. Hope to see you next time. Take care of yourself. God bless. Bye. Way to go, guys. We got 4 minutes to eat.
She said we
It's
could-